Welcome to the podcast Road to Inclusion from the Atlas Alliance. In this podcast series, we'll cover themes such as disability rights, disability inclusion, the empowerment of persons with disabilities, inclusive international development aid, and disability inclusive humanitarian action. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new and exciting episode of the podcast Road to Inclusion. I'm your host, Gagan Shabra, and I'm the project manager for inclusion at the Atlas Alliance. And today, we have a fantastic, fascinating, insightful, experienced guest here with us, Ambassador Jennifer Latte. She is the ambassador of Ghana to Norway, and she's here with us in the studio. And we are extremely elated for the fact that she took time out from her busy schedule and came here to talk with us at the Atlas Alliance. And we'll be discussing important themes such as the Global Disability Summit, because Ghana is actually co-hosting the Global Disability Summit, along with the International Development in Norway, as well as International Disability Alliance. So before we jump into all the conversations linked to the Global Disability Summit, the gorgeous country of Ghana, and disability inclusion out there, a little bit of description about myself. Right now, I'm wearing a black buttoned-up shirt, a black jacket. I have long curly hair. I have a red tie, a white wall behind me, as well as blue tinted glasses. Now to our very important guest, Ambassador Jennifer Latte. Welcome to Road to Inclusion.
Thank you. And hello to everybody.
Yeah, how are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Yes.
I'm doing good. I'm very excited to be here this morning with you.
Well, we as well. Absolutely. We are extremely elated and excited that you took time out to come here. So before we jump into all the important conversations which we'll have about the Global Disability Summit and Ghana, why don't you just briefly describe yourself?
Okay. I'm wearing a pair of black trousers. The Americans will say pants, but I'm wearing a black pair of trousers with boots because it's snowing. And then I have on a very colorful jacket with so many colors, red, blue. It's a Ghanaian jacket made in Ghana. And then I have a pin of Ghana, of the flags of Ghana and Norway to show our relationship. The pin just dropped off, but I have a pin of Ghana and Norway's flag on the collar of my jacket. I'm wearing a pair of glasses, black rimmed glasses. I think that would, and I'm holding my hair in a band. It's my natural hair, twisted in a band.
I must say that I really, I'm so happy that you're wearing that colorful Ghanaian jacket.
Great.
I wish someday I could get one for myself.
I think I'm going to arrange that. It will be good to see you in one.
Absolutely, yeah. So now, let's for the broader audience, why don't you just tell a little bit about your biography and your work and stay out here in Norway. Please.
Okay. My name or her name is Jennifer Latte. That is me. I was born on 21st April 1965, meaning that I turned 57 years in a couple of months in April. I'm married with 3 children and 1 grandson. I had my first degree in English, and my second, I earned an MBA in 1989 for my first degree, and in the year 2000 for the MBA, both with the University of Ghana. I subsequently earned an LLB in 2016 with the University of London in the UK. And then I entered to the Ghana School of Law to pursue the professional law course and was subsequently called to the bar.
Wow.
In 2019. That is so. I'm the new kid on the block, a fresh lawyer. In the year 2019, I was called to the Ghana bar as a lawyer. I'm a career diplomat by profession. I joined Ghana's foreign ministry 20 years ago. I have worked in several departments in the ministry. Typical of every foreign ministry, we have several geographical or political departments and administrative, and I've served in several capacities in all these departments. I've also served in our diplomatic mission in Washington, D.C.
Oh, wow.
And New Delhi in India.
Ah.
I was appointed and subsequently commissioned as Ghana's ambassador to the Kingdom of Norway by the President of the Republic of Ghana on 1st February 2019, and I presented my letters to King Harald V of the Kingdom of Norway on 7th March 2019, and have since been the ambassador of Ghana to Norway. But should I add that with concurrent accreditation to Finland and Iceland?
Oh, wow. So
Yes.
you're managing 3 countries, are you saying that to me?
Precisely.
So the Nordics are in safe hand.
Yes, they are. I think they are. So this sums up who Jennifer is.
Yeah, wow. But that's such an illustrious career. And that's why in the beginning of the podcast, I said that we have a fascinating and a very insightful guest, an important guest here with us in the studio, because I'm just so excited for the fact that you are here with us, Ambassador Latte. So in the beginning of the podcast, you were describing yourself and you talked about these 2 pins you are wearing, the pin of Ghana and the pin of Norway. Do you want to dwell a little bit about the relationship between these 2 countries? Because you are an ambassador of Ghana to the Kingdom of Norway. And what are your thoughts about this relationship?
Yes, I think it's important that we talk about the relationship, because without the relationship, we wouldn't be here.
Yes.
And Ghana and Norway and the Kingdom of Norway have enjoyed friendly relations and cooperation over several years. And in fact, Ghana has viewed Norway as a role model in several areas, including how it has invested, it has ensured efficiency in investing in its natural resources for the benefit of its people. It has managed its natural resources efficiently for the benefit of its people. And this is something that makes us look out and see Norway as a role model, because we would like to learn from you. Now, Norway intensified its diplomatic presence in Ghana by upgrading. It used to have a consulate in Ghana, upgrading from a consulate to an embassy on 21st November 2011. And coincidentally, we opened an embassy in Norway on 21st November 2018. So it's interesting, the number 21st November is a lucky number. And we've shared common ideals and are dedicated to addressing issues such as threats to climate change, protection of fundamental human rights, promotion of peace, democracy, good governance. These are areas that we all, are dedicated to, and we share. These are ideals that both countries share. It's also interesting to note that the president of Ghana and the prime ministers of Norway have worked since 2017, following their appointments as co-chairs of eminent persons assisting the UN Secretary General in the campaign to reach the Sustainable Development Goals. We have worked together, both countries. So the relationship goes, beyond bounds.
If I may just say a couple of things which struck me out from that intervention. Number one being the fact that you said that why Ghana looks up to Norway is because often across the globe, when there are resources in a country, it turns into a curse instead of a blessing.
Precisely.
And in the case of Norway, there is this amazing capacity of the country to channelize its resources in a way to conserve them, to use them for the benefit of the civilians and the citizens. So that is something which not just Ghana, but I think many countries across the globe look up to Norway.
Yes, and you've hit the nail on the head. If you don't, if you don't manage your resources, it becomes more of a curse. And we see it all over. We don't want to mention any names, but it's clear. And this is one of the key reasons why we are here, because we discovered oil some years back, and Norway has been of great assistance in helping us to manage these resources, for the benefit of our people, as you have done. So you've hit the nail on the head, yes.
Yes, and in the previous intervention, you talked about 2 other things which were like so important to accentuate. First, the fact that Ghana and Norway could work together on the broader goal of protection of human rights in broad terms. And secondly, the recent partnership to promote sustainable development goals, to realize them. And this takes us straight to the summit now. So do you want to dwell a little bit about the summit? I introduced the fact that government of Ghana is co-hosting the summit along with the government of Norway.
Yes. Indeed, Ghana is co-hosting the summit, and we are, I should say, overly excited.
Yeah.
But the aim of the Global Disability Summit 2022, we all know, is to create a lasting change by building on the Global Disability Summit 2018, which started a new wave in the disability movement. And the movement is aimed at promoting the rights and inclusion of persons with disability. This beautifully dovetails into the Sustainable Development Goals, where we talk about inclusive education, health, poverty,
Inclusive employment.
It dovetails beautifully into it. And therefore, we are excited to be hosting this particular summit, which aims to address or advocate for persons with disability. And therefore, Ghana, we can assure you, will do all we can to make the summit a success.
We are pretty excited about the fact that government of Ghana is co-hosting the summit, because the truth be told, when you think about persons with disabilities, there are more than a billion people around the globe who have some kind of a disability, and a vast majority of them, almost 800 million of them, live in the global south. And it's so important that we focus on our brothers and sisters with disabilities in the global south, because that is where we need to bring real sustainable change. Because if we want to kind of realize sustainable development goals, which says leave no one behind, we can never achieve that as if we don't include persons with disabilities. So we're just extremely delighted for the fact that Ghana is taking up this leadership, is taking up this mantle along with Norway, and saying we want to promote disability inclusion and promote disability rights and realize disability justice. Yes. Yeah. So if we could just dwell a little longer about the Global Disability Summit. So the first one, as you rightly said, happened in 2018. The government of UK was co-hosting it along with the government of Kenya, and the co-host was International Disability Alliance. And now, this time around, it's the government of Norway, the government of Ghana, and the International Disability Alliance. So, do you have certain goals, certain expectations, certain ambitions and aspirations from the upcoming summit, which is happening in less than 2 weeks now?
Yes, we do. We certainly do. We have two key expectations. The first one is that we expect a successful summit, which obviously is going to be, which will come out with good resolutions that will commit all participants or all countries to address issues of disability in a holistic manner. And then we also see the summit, or we expect to see the summit as a platform for information sharing on best practices and ideas to inform government decision policies, of the various countries that will be present. So these are the two key expectations of of Ghana with regarding the summit. Now, for an outcome, from our perspective, what Ghana expects to gain, what will be the ultimate outcome, is that we expect that by the end of the day, we can go back and empower all persons living with disabilities to enable them contribute to national development. And we also expect to provide improved standards of living for persons with disability in Ghana, and then also strengthen the capacities of organizations on disability, and also their engagement with the government of Ghana. These are very important outcomes that we expect as well.
One of the words which stood out from that intervention for me was when you said you have to look at disability or disability rights or disability inclusion from a holistic perspective. It's so important to stress that,
yes,
that it's not just the responsibility of the Atlas Alliance or the International Disability Alliance or the International Disability and Development Consortium to promote disability in Ghana, but it's also the responsibility of the government of Ghana, of the civil society organizations working in Ghana, of the private sector in Ghana to say, we want to step up to the table and we
Mhm.
want to ensure that persons with disabilities are included, because disability rights are human rights and the protection of human rights is a very important goal which both Norway and Ghana are committed to and are working to realize. So that was just fantastic. Uh, is there any specific outcome which you as an individual, Jennifer, and you as an ambassador, Latte, would want to see come out from the Global Disability Summit 2022?
Yes, I would want us to go back and begin to walk the talk. We would have had enough talk, and we need to walk the talk. We need to practically do what we're expected to do. So I'm hoping that at the end of the day, to summarize it, we're going to walk the talk.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like commitments are important to be made. It's important to have goals and targets, but if you don't implement them, implement is a catchword.
Implement efficiently and effectively.
Yes.
And we will get to that. When
No, absolutely. That sounds great. And like, if we could now take two steps back from the Global Disability Summit, which is extremely important avenue for us to realize disability rights and promote disability inclusion, what is the present situation for persons with disabilities in Ghana? Because a lot of audience, they know Ghana, that it's a beautiful country, great geography, fantastic food, colorful outfits, and so many cultural heritage which Ghana has. But when it comes to persons with disabilities, I don't know whether people know enough about it. So could you please enlighten all the audience members?
Yes, I think that's a good question. And in attempting to do that, I'll talk about what we have achieved, the present situation on the ground, and of course the challenges we're also facing. In securing inclusion and protecting the rights of people with disability, Ghana has amended its Disability Act 715, I believe, to conform with the provisions of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of People with Disability, and that is very, very important. We also have introduced what we call the Disability Fund to support the income generation activities of persons with disability. And then we also have the National Council on Persons for Persons with Disability, which is a state agency mandated to coordinate all issues of disability by monitoring, evaluating our legislations and our policies to ensure that we are able to deliver on our commitments. GDS, when I say Global Disability Summit 18 commitments. And I'm sure you'd want to know what those commitments that we made were.
Yes.
And I would briefly talk about them. Inclusive education, economic empowerment, empowerment of women with disability, providing technology, and last but not the least, elimination of discrimination and stigma. And so this institution, National Council for Persons, has been mandated to make sure we deliver on our GDS. Now, it has also ensured that it sensitizes key institutions in Ghana. As I speak now, 60% of our ministries, departments, and agencies have been sensitized, and a lot of awareness has been created about the GDS 18. We also have 70% of organizations on disabilities also have been awareness have been created, which is fantastic. And then also we also have state institutions that work on humanitarian issues, like we have the National Disaster Management Organization. We also have the Fire Service, and then we have the Ghana Police. Their work most often is based on humanitarian support. And a lot of sensitization has gone into that these respective state institutions. So they prioritize assisting persons with disability in the discharge of their duties. And I think that is also a good step in the right direction. We also have what we call a program that we have launched called LEAP, an abbreviation LEAP, which is I think, and I recall, it is Livelihood Empowerment Against Poverty.
Oh, wow.
And it is geared towards the core poor in our society, assisting them to find jobs to do. And we have, out of the number of the poor, we have 17% of the beneficiaries are persons with disabilities, which is 1.4 million, which is very good and impressive. And you can find them in various sectors, particularly toll booths, collecting tolls, in the various markets and road tolls, and as I said, we have 17% of people with disabilities benefiting from this particular intervention, which is quite good. And then we've adopted the inclusive education policy that seeks to define the strategic path for educating children with special needs. That is also something that government has done. And then the Ministry for Gender and Children and Social Protection, Ghana's ministry, has also launched what we call the Accessibility Standard for Built Environment. And this program is to provide specifications for policymakers to ensure quality and non-discrimination service in the built environment, because most often you've realized that we do not consider persons with disability in the built environment.
Yes.
So this is also one key intervention that has taken place. So currently, this is a situation when we talk about disability inclusion in Ghana. Having said that, despite all these interventions I've spoken about, I think there's still a lot of work to be done. Nobody can say that he or she is perfect. And therefore, there's a lot of work to be done. And I would want to focus on inclusive education because that's an area dear to my heart. And then I will talk about stigmatization. These are the two things that I would want to speak about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I would like to pick your brain on that. But when I heard your response right now and you explained about the interventions which is being done right from LEAP, for instance, livelihood empowerment against poverty, to inclusive education, to accessibility, universal design of the built-in environment, this is what I call holistic. This is not like a piecemeal way or a very narrow way of looking at the disability inclusion question. It's a more holistic perspective. And that's fantastic to hear. And in particular, I was quite impressed by the LEAP program because whether we like it or not, disability is often the cause and the consequence of poverty. So, for instance, there's this intertwining of poverty. If you are poor, then there's a high chance that you can become disabled because of lack of nourishment, because of lack of medical treatment, because of poor sanitation. And if you become disabled, then there's a high chance that you become poor because you can lose job, you can have lack of opportunity to participate in the labor market, have limited livelihood opportunities. So it's fantastic to hear that your government is doing those initiatives, and it's music to my ears.
Yes, and we need to realize that empowering persons with disability goes with national development because they contribute to national development once you empower them. So it's important that we do that, and I'm very proud about the LEAP program.
Yes. Yeah, no, absolutely. Like the moment we start viewing persons with disabilities as not as objects of charity, but more as subjects of rights and who could contribute meaningfully to the GDP, that's when we include them in the real sense of inclusion. And one thing which you said was very poignant and eloquent in the previous intervention about how nobody is perfect. This is a journey. Inclusion is perhaps the goal, and we are on this road together, taking that journey to realize inclusion. It's a process. And it's fantastic that you, when you say about Ghana has come a long way from where it began, on this beautiful journey of disability inclusion. So great. If now we could circle back to the two major issues which are close to your heart, inclusive education and stigma and discrimination. What are your thoughts about inclusive education?
Yes, the challenges we're facing back home. Yes, I budgetary allocation for children with disabilities under the education sector. We acknowledge is quite low, on the low side. We have 0.5% of educational budgetary allocation going to special needs. And I think that this is an area we are trying to work on to improve on. And admittedly, we could do a lot. We could do better. Now, although we have special schools for persons with disabilities, we find that quite a number of them are still attending the regular schools. And that is a major challenge, especially when you have the built environment or they don't have easy access to the infrastructure we already have in place. Now, this is also an area that we are very concerned about and we're working on. And financial support, I must admit, for children with disability, educating children with disability has mainly come from donors. And I think we're working also to balance the scale so that, we can also do our bit.
Yes.
Now, the limitations to access to education by children with disability is due to certain factors, and I would want to mention some of them. Lack of the requisite skills by the teachers who are teaching, lack of parental support. Most times you would find that, and the conditions of the infrastructure, as I said, school infrastructure limits access for children with disability. And then also lack of adequate textbooks which are tailor-made towards the needs of children with disability. So these are what limits the children to have access to education. And I think this is something we as a people in Ghana acknowledge and see that we can work on. And also, children with disabilities are also excluded from national educational assessments.
Wow.
Limited provisions are made for them. And therefore, it is difficult to monitor progress these children are making. And I think that it is something that we would need to seriously work on. And we know that this, as I said, this summit is going to be a platform for us to learn about the best practices and ideas from others like Norway to be able to implement it back home in Ghana. Now, the other issue that are dear to my heart is the issue of stigmatization.
But before we talk about stigmatization, because there's something which is so important, which you have mentioned, like there are these special schools and there are these regular schools, and children with disabilities are kind of stuck in the special schools often because the infrastructure is not accessible, because the curriculum is not inclusive, because the teachers are not trained. And the parents perhaps don't think that children with disabilities belong in the regular school.
Precisely.
And I think if we want to realize the ideal of inclusive education, we've got to address all those issues. And those issues require money, require resources, require
the key.
Teacher.
Precisely, the requisite skills.
Yes. Absolutely. So I think it's so important that this point gets accentuated, this point gets underscored, that yes, we can have laws which says inclusive education is an ideal, it's a norm, but to operationalize it, we need to have budgets, we need to allocate resources, we need to build capacity of the teachers.
Well said.
Yes.
Well said.
No, and important thing in that intervention which you mentioned, Ambassador Latte, is about parents, for instance.
Yes.
Often parents could have lower expectations from the children with disabilities.
Precisely.
Or what you said about how in the national assessment, the children with disabilities would not be assessed because the system itself assesses and expects children with disabilities to not participate, to not be included.
Yes, and we don't make provision for them in the first place. And you see, not being able to assess the progress of children with disability is not right.
Yes, it's a recipe for setting them up for failure.
Precisely.
Because the moment you say, I'm not going to assess you, that means I don't
I
expect
have
enough.
decided that you're not good enough, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yes.
They're not good enough. Yeah.
Yes.
And this becomes like a perfect segue to the attitudes, to the stereotypes, to the misconceptions.
Yeah.
Please.
That goes to the issue of discrimination and stigmatization. And I'm glad because I think, and we know that this issue of stigmatization is a result of cultural beliefs, superstitions. I'm talking about back in Africa, cultural beliefs, superstitions, why a person's child is disabled. And that is why we have lack of participation by parents, because of our cultural beliefs and superstitions, and lack of knowledge as well also contributes to that as well. And then the tendency to fear and therefore decide that exclude people who we perceive to be different. These all cause stigmatization and discrimination. And I think the only thing to do is through education.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You are hitting the nail on its head, because when you said about fear of anything which is different, we know that how, for instance, individuals are put into boxes, put into categories, and some individuals are considered as quote unquote normal, quote unquote active, quote unquote regular, and quote unquote individuals who should participate in the society, whilst others are just pushed to the margins. And because persons with disabilities look different, they communicate in perhaps different ways, they understand the world in a different way, then the society might say, no, you don't belong here. You're supposed to be perhaps kept in the house, hidden away. Yeah. The reason why I say that is because I also belong to a global South country. Like, I came from a country called as India, and these cultural stereotypes are so strong. This idea about karma, that disability coming out of your past sins,
or family curse or something,
Yes, it's the thing which kind of inhibits the inclusion of persons with disabilities, and it stops them from having a human rights orientation. Yeah, or society treating them as human beings with equal human dignity and equal human worth. You mentioned some time ago also about the Global Disability Summit, it being a platform for best practices. How do you see Global Disability Summit influencing the disability inclusion in Ghana, in Africa, and across developing countries?
Fantastic. I said something earlier on, and I'm going to reiterate that we expect that this summit is going to influence disability inclusion in Ghana, Africa, and developing countries by coming out with a good resolution that commits all members, including those in Ghana, Africa, and developing countries, not only to develop and implement policies and strategies to address the needs of persons, but to ensure that these policies and strategies are effectively, the key word is effectively and efficiently enforced, monitored and evaluated continuously, to ensure that we are successful, that we can measure success. So this is what we are expecting the summit to do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You are so right that if we don't measure whatever we have done, then we don't know if we have succeeded, if we have failed, if everything has just remained the same, status quo. So it's so important to make sure that the commitments get implemented, as you said, and monitored and evaluated, and then reported on.
Very key. And we do it efficiently and effectively. I remember when I was in school, management school, these two words were keywords we were asked to use all the time: efficiently and effectively. So I find myself using it every time I speak. You see, it's important that we monitor, coordinate, evaluate. consistently. It's very important that we do that. Yes.
Yes. Is there any specific outcome which you think you would want to realize or Ghana would want to realize from the Global Disability Summit?
Yes. A legacy.
Yeah.
Yes. We would want to see the reawakening of global commitment and the sharing of best practices to address disability issues globally. So we have all made commitments, but there should be a reawakening of these commitments. And we should share best practices and ideas that have helped other countries for the benefit of all. Is important globally. We go together. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the key word there is reawakening, right? Because we all know in the bottom of our heart that we would want to have schools which are inclusive of persons or children with disabilities. We all know in the bottom of our heart that the labor markets should be inclusive for all people with disabilities. We all know that when we go to restaurants, cafes, theaters, government buildings, election polling booths, they should be accessible because we want persons with disabilities to be included in community and in democratic process. But it's so important to reawaken us from
Very
time to
important.
time
It is.
to ensure that we have these platforms like the Global Disability Summit when we all will meet up and we'll say, okay, let's re-listen to these things, let's re-engage with these topics, and let's reimagine a more inclusive, sustainable world so that then we could work together to realize
Very important.
inclusion.
Very important.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, Ambassador Latte, Atlas Alliance has fantastic, comprehensive projects in Africa, in countries like Uganda and Ethiopia, South Sudan. It has huge, prominent projects in Africa. Do you have any piece of advice for the Atlas Alliance team who is engaged and involved in implementing the Global Disability Summit 2022?
I think I do.
Yeah.
Let me say this first of all, that members and partners of Atlas Alliance organizing the summit, including Together for Inclusion, if I'm right.
Yes.
Yes, are promoting a worthy cause. And I wish to commend them because they are creating a lasting change by promoting the rights of persons with disability in Africa. And this is very important. Now, first of all, so this is a commendation. Now, with my advice is that in order for you or for Atlas, when I say you, I mean Atlas Alliance, to consolidate the gains made, it's important that they build broader and stronger partnerships with all the stakeholders in Africa, in the private, civil, and public sectors, as I said, in Africa, to address issues of disability. Because you see, they are on the ground and they know the needs and the wants of persons with disability. So it's important that they build stronger and broader partnerships with these institutions. Now, also another point which I think I need to raise is that the active involvement from the grassroots or at the grassroots of civil institutions, of persons with disabilities themselves and their families in every aspect of the development process, implementation of the policies is key to the success of this movement. Because you see, they are the main stakeholders and they need to have a sense of belonging, a sense of participation. So it's important that we get them involved right at the beginning. And then I think there's a need to provide technical assistance, specifically to African developing countries and in Africa, to ensure the continued, and it's very important, continued enforcement and effective coordination, monitoring and evaluation of these policies and strategies. Because it's very important that without continued enforcement, monitoring, evaluation, we would be marking time. So this is the little advice I have. And I would conclude by saying that it's important, again, and I've said it, that we walk the talk. Finding the solution is one step in the right direction, but moving forward to implementing, enforcing, monitoring, and evaluation is the key to our success.
Very beautifully said. And if I may just reiterate some of the points that you mentioned about how partnership is the key when it comes to realizing disability inclusion. Disability inclusion cannot be done single handedly by one institution, one organization, one stakeholder. We need the private sector, we need the public sector, we need the civil society organizations all pulling together. Also, what you said about participation and representation or engagement with people with disabilities, because there's this slogan banner under which we work, we operate in Atlas or around the globe. Nothing about us without us. So if you want to talk about disability rights, if you want to talk about disability inclusion, if you want to realize disability justice, we need to ensure that persons with disabilities are centered. And last but not the least, walking the talk when it comes to implementing it. Wow, this is beautiful message. And I hope all Atlas Alliance members, organizers, partners in Africa and around the globe listen to it and get inspired. Fantastic. If I may ask you for an endearing anecdote which you would want to share with our audience members beyond the Global Disability Summit, beyond your work as the ambassador of Ghana to Norway, what would that be?
That would be the importance of love, empathy, and humanity. As human beings, we need to have that. You don't have to be disabled to have love. Or you don't have to have a family member being disabled before you have love, empathy, or share what you have. Humanity is key. And I came to this realization during the birth of my grandson 2 years ago. For the first time, I was in the delivery room, and they made the erroneous mistake of asking me to be with my daughter and her husband in the delivery room. And it wasn't an easy thing. The experience, I was so traumatized by what I saw my daughter go through. But when the baby came out, the joy, the love it gave me was so much that I forgot the journey that we went through a few moments ago. And I learned through the birth of my grandson that love, empathy, humanity is key to our survival in this world.
Absolutely. Wow. On that strong, powerful note on love, empathy, our common shared humanity, and a sense of hope, I would like to express my deepest gratitude, Ambassador Latte, for taking time out and talking to us. And I'm sure all those listeners would be inspired by your words. Please go and check out the Global Disability Summit website. It's called as globaldisabilitysummit.org. Please engage with the Embassy of Ghana if you have questions about the Global Disability Summit. They are co-hosts along with the government of Norway. And it was a pleasure indeed to talk to you.
The pleasure was mine.
Thank you.
The pleasure was mine.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for tuning into this podcast episode. I hope you found this conversation engaging, enlightening, and a little bit entertaining. And if yes, then I hope you get a chance to follow the other episodes as well. And please subscribe and share the podcast series Road to Inclusion.